For years, Toyota was forever living in the shadow of Type R. The Celica was never quite as good as the Integra. The Corolla was never quite as good as the Civic Type R. But a few years ago, something changed at Toyota. We got the 86, then the Yaris GR, the Supra, and now this. This is a Toyota Corolla GR, built to take on the likes of the WRX STI, the Civic Type R, the A45, M135i, and Audi RS3. And you can immediately tell it apart from a standard Corolla because of the GR badges plastered over the seats, the side, the brake calipers, the front and the back. It has completely different front and rear bumpers with massive fender flares. At the front, the bonnet has an enormous bulge on it with vents to cool the new turbocharged engine, and around the back it has a very unusual tri-exhaust formation. That engine is smaller than every other Toyota performance engine ever made. 2JZ, 3 litres, 1JZ, 2.5 litres, 3S GTE, 2 litres, the 2ZZ was a 1.8, and like the 4Age, this is a 1.6 litre engine, but it's got one less cylinder. It's only a 3-cylinder engine. But of course, to make the power to compete with modern hot hatchbacks, it's got a massive turbocharger bolted to it. It makes 221 kilowatt, or just under 300 horsepower and 370 newton meters of torque, which makes it a very, very interesting engine because compared with all of the other hot hatchbacks, not only is it much smaller and has one less cylinder, but it's a very powerful but not very torquey engine, which I like because it harks back to the good old days when you had to really wind out a hot hatchback's naturally aspirated engine. Power is being sent through a 4-wheel drive system, which is pretty much fully customizable. In normal mode, you can have it sending 60% of power to the front, but with the flick of a switch in the middle, you can send up 70% of the power to the back, or in track mode, have it set 50-50. And joy of joys, the Corolla GR comes equipped with a 6-speed manual transmission as the only transmission option. The wheels are also quite interesting because you'll notice that they're not really all that big. The previous model Civic Type R had 20-inch rims, and the latest one has got 265 wide Lamborghini tyres on it. Whereas this, because it is perhaps designed more as a road car, they gave it a bit more sidewall, and it's only got 18-inch wheels with 235 wide tyres. So as a result, certainly from factory, you'll notice that one of these is not quite as face-bending as perhaps some of the other competitors, but it has much better ride quality and feels a lot more suited to road driving. Weight-saving measures are extensive. It's got a fully carbon fibre roof. It doesn't have any kind of heat shielding here under the bonnet, and as a result of all that, this only weighs 1,450 kilos, which for a modern all-wheel drive full-size hatchback is exceedingly light. Inside the Corolla GR, one of the best things about it is that, to be honest, there's not a whole lot that gives it away that this is a very high-performance hot hatchback. The driving position isn't alarmingly low, so it's not particularly hard to get in and out of. The steering wheel here doesn't even have any 10-2 grips on it at all. The seats don't have much bolstering here by your legs, and overall, it is a pretty standard and very comfortable place to sit. The buttons for the climate control here are a little bit small, which means they can be a touch hard to press. There's quite a lot of shiny black plastic all down the center console here, which already is covered in dust and fingerprints. And the gauges, I found them a little bit hard to use. It works, but it's definitely not the best implementation of a gauge cluster that I've ever seen. However, it does look cool, and you can switch from the round tack to the tachometer across the top by sending it over into sport mode. The infotainment system, they've kept it very simple. There's no animations to speak of, so everything just happens very snappily. It's got a wireless charger, it's got heated seats, which the Civic Type R could only dream of having, and then of course your drive mode switch, traction control, your shift knob, and your torque split for the center differential. It even has a manual handbrake. Can you believe it? The transmission feels pretty good, although there's quite a big distance you have to move it left to right, which is interesting. Backseat room is not flash, if I'm honest. I struggle to sit behind myself, and the boot is very small for a hatchback of this size. So it definitely sacrifices a little bit of practicality. They haven't overcomplicated it, they haven't spent too much on fancy materials, and they also haven't made it too harsh and uncomfortable and race car-y here on the inside. It's a perfect balance. The Corolla GR. Let's put it up into sport mode put traction control into expert mode, and let's see how this thing goes. Brakes, sensational, nice, firm pedal. Transmission, very easy to find all of the gears, but it's a very, very heavy shift knob, so you have to really manhandle it into every gear. Up into third. So I've got it in 60/40 at the moment, and it definitely feels very front wheel drive. Let's put it to rear biased and see how that changes things. Oh yeah, you immediately notice the difference. Gone is the understeer, and in its place is, yeah, that push from the back. Engine, quite quiet. Naturally it's a 3-cylinder, which in my mind is actually a good thing. I think it sounds better than most 4 cylinders, kind of like a baby V6 up there. You hit the odd turbo noise. Gears are nice and short. The throttle response, even in third gear, there's a good second or so of lag, but because it is kind of more powerful than torquey, it's not just all mid-range. Yeah, that pulls right to 7,000 RPM, man. Steering feel is surprisingly light, actually. Like, you can easily turn through this corner with just one finger. It's not really all that heavy, but it provides excellent feedback. And the power is glorious. Handling, sensational, it just grips. Being able to put your foot down and know that every time it's just going to sort you out and get you on the move is brilliant. Even out of first gear here, look at that. You could not floor it in first gear out of that corner in a front wheel drive car. And the ride quality. This bit of road here is terrible, but it doesn't beat you up. It feels like a road going rally car. Very similar to the Yaris GR, just a little bit more substantial, which I like. Finding stuff like this that drives this well with a manual transmission that is usable on the road, that's not just a race car with indicators, is not easy to find. The latest FL5 is a fantastic car, but you can tell it was developed on the track, and I don't want to sound like James May here going, oh, it's too hard and uncomfortable, but genuinely the FL5, it's a pretty raw car. And I expected this to be much the same, because the Yaris is kind of the rally car, this is supposed to be the track car, but amazingly this isn't. I'm in sport mode over this horrible bit of road, and it's no less comfortable than my BMW, which is a luxury road touring car. Would I say that it's better than a Civic Type R? Well, the best way I can describe it is they've both got good engines, they both handle fantastically well, they're both manual, and they're both about the same price. But there definitely are some subtle differences. This, while very quick, whiz right to 7,200, I have to say the Type R is probably 10% sharper than this. You can tell the Type R was developed on the track, and this was developed on the road. To be honest, I'd take a car that's better on the road with its 4-wheel drive to sort out the traction, slightly softer suspension to soak up the bumps, slightly less sharp steering so that mid-corner it's not bouncing the steering wheel around in your hands, and slightly less aggressively bolstered seats, because let's be honest, I mean, this is 99% of the drive that you're going to do. And while life certainly isn't all about numbers on paper, I think in this case, when you run the figures on those numbers, that stacks everything heavily in the favour of this Corolla GR. Thanks very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.